You know how sometimes a drug that was made for one thing ends up being a superstar for something totally different? Like, think aspirin for heart attacks, or certain blood pressure meds that, surprise, also help with hair loss. Well, today we're jumping into a story that's even wilder. It's about how a simple deworming pill has kicked off this huge, passionate, and global debate about a potential cure for cancer.
So that's the big question, right? And to really get our heads around it, we have to understand that there are basically two different worlds that have sprung up around these drugs. The first one, it's built on decades of solid global-scale science. The other, well, that one lives in the really intense and often desperate world of online forums and personal stories.
All right, so let's start with what we know for a fact. Before all the controversy and the online buzz, these drugs were already considered miracle workers for a very specific and very important job.
Okay, so the drugs we're talking about have this really technical name, anthelmintics. It sounds complicated, but all it really means is they get rid of parasitic worms. And you've probably heard of some of them, like ivermectin and albendazole. And in their own field, their effectiveness is absolutely not up for debate. They just work.
And what's really fascinating here is just how precise their use is. This comes straight from the Infectious Diseases Society of America. They're not just guessing. For a really serious condition like neurocystic sarcosis, that's a parasitic infection in the brain, the treatment is tailored right down to the number of cysts they see on a brain scan. It's all based on solid evidence from clinical trials.
And, because this is the world of established medicine, it's not just about the benefits. The risks are also super well understood and managed. The guidelines are crystal clear. If you're on these drugs for a while, you need regular monitoring for serious stuff like liver damage or a drop in your white blood cells. The whole point here is that in this world, everything is measured. The good, the bad, and the protocols. It's all built on data.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit, because the success of these drugs goes way beyond just treating one person at a time. This is a story of global public health on a scale that is honestly hard to even imagine.
Get ready for this number, 1.4 billion. Just let that sink in for a second. That's how many treatments were donated, on average, every single year for an entire decade. It's one of the biggest, most successful public health campaigns on the entire planet.
And this is what that massive effort is all about, fighting these horrible diseases that cause so much suffering. We're talking river blindness, which is treated with ivermectin, or lymphatic filariasis, treated with a combo of albendazole and ivermectin. These exact same medicines are the backbone of a global strategy that's trying to wipe these diseases off the map for good.
Okay, so we've got these proven, world-changing parasite fighters. Case closed, right? Well, not exactly, because in a totally different corner of the internet, a new and, let's be honest, highly controversial story has taken root.
And it usually starts with a story. A post you see online, something just like this one. It's personal, it's powerful. And just like that, the very same drugs we just saw being used for river blindness are suddenly in a totally different conversation about cancer.
And believe me, this isn't just a few people talking in a corner of the internet. We're talking about online forums and social media groups filled with people, often patients, who feel like they've run out of all other options, sharing their own treatment plans, their stories, and their hope, all centered on these deworming drugs. And what you end up with is this online battleground. It's a place where personal experience and desperate hope are going head-to-head with scientific consensus and, frankly, a lot of skepticism. It's a really emotional and divisive debate.
I mean, just look at the two sides here. On the one hand, you've got people who see this as a lifeline. They're sharing these incredible success stories, and there's often this belief that maybe a cheap cure is being suppressed by big pharma. But then, on the other side, you have critics pointing out some very serious red flags. Like, some of these protocols are being pushed by people who've actually lost their medical license, and they're begging people to stick with proven FDA-approved treatments.
And you can absolutely see why people are drawn to this. You read a story like this one. Someone saying this protocol, taken alongside chemo, cured her husband's stage 4 lymphoma. I mean, wow. For somebody in that terrifying situation, a story like this is pure hope. But then you scroll down and you find a story like this one. For every supposed miracle, there's a story of heartbreak. The same protocol, a different person, a different cancer, and a tragic outcome. And that's the whole challenge with this kind of anecdotal evidence, isn't it? The results are all over the place, and they're impossible to verify.
So this really gets to the heart of the issue. We literally have two different stories being told about the exact same drugs, and they're built on two fundamentally different kinds of evidence.
Let's just lay it all out side by side. For the proven antiparasitic use, where does the information come from? Official clinical guidelines and global health reports. What's the evidence? Huge, controlled scientific trials. And is there a consensus? Absolutely, it's strong and widely accepted. Now, look at the emerging anti-cancer claim. The info comes from Reddit and personal blogs. The evidence is personal stories. And a scientific consensus? There isn't one. It's completely lacking and super controversial.
And so, we're left with this incredibly tough question. In a world where rigorous science can feel slow and impersonal, and where a personal story on the internet can offer so much immediate hope, how does a person, especially a patient who's facing a devastating diagnosis, even begin to navigate that choice? It's a real dilemma, and there's just no easy answer.